boy, it's time for the big decision in the game. Where my main landing is going to be. Right up front loaded in terms of the game, you got to make this big decision, what your whole strategy is going to be. Now, I griped and grumped about Stalingrad that I played very recently, that front-loaded all the decision-making. But that's of a different nature. That's a decision-making of, I look at everything and I optimize. Here, I look at everything and I figure out what my strategy is going to be. Now, pretty obviously, I think I'm going to want to make a southern landing. Otherwise, you don't get the pieces that show up in the med box. That's fine. I'm not going to expect much out of it. However, there's a lot to think about here. First of all, I could land way up here. Now, zeros don't sound like good landing places. But you know, the Pas-de-Calais area has one beach, Dunkirk, which is a 2-point beach. And this was sort of the Germans' assumption of where the Allied landings would be. All the other beaches there, a couple of ones. There are some ports, and that's important. One reason not to land there is, hey, the Germans don't have to defend Paris. It's also, you know, right in the cluster. All the German forces are right there. The reinforcements will be coming on quick. So it's going to be hard to get a foothold there. And I really don't want to risk that. Maybe in another time I play. Look over here. Yep. Not too pleasant looking. There is a port nearby. There is some landing spaces. I'm right on the border of an air zone, which is kind of a problem. It means I might need to use air superiority in both of these areas. And again, there's a fair amount of troops there. However, Normandy, there's a fair amount of troops. All the good landing zones are in Normandy, though. All the 3-point areas. Oops. A lot of 3-point areas. Do have Cherbourg as a port. Not too far from Le Havre. Just looking to see. And of course, Dieppe is on the way. Brittany, well, Brittany's got a couple of units in it. It's got some defenses there. I have, what, 1 port, and that's it? 2 ports. Lorient as well. Some beaches, nothing to write home about. No beautiful sands to land on. Remember, what's right on the beach? That doesn't make things necessarily trivial. The beach attack is going to be just based on the terrain of the beach. And pretty much, as long as it's not wetlands or fortress, it's okay. But outside of that, kind of want the number to be decent. Let's keep going southward. Now, there's some good beaches here. Bordeaux is a port. There's definitely some troops there. Ooh, Rochelle or not. There's something there. So there's not a lot of port here, and that's kind of the minus. I was kind of thinking, wouldn't it be cool to land here, be able to link up? Of course, I had a lot of France to run through, if that's the case. Finding it real hard to, find a place where I'm willing to go into that's not Normandy. And maybe I shouldn't fight it. I mean, the game is not necessarily designed to force you to go into Normandy. It certainly isn't, but at least I'll be getting the historical attacks if I make my landings here. I've got this annoying bocage though, and thanks to Kyle, suggested blowing up the map scan that's online and printing out the TEC, and that's helpful. And there's a lot of, there's a lot of stuff on this TEC that has no effect on the play. Let's see, the V2 sites, industry and oil. Are these like, sitting in some secret, mod to the game or something? I don't remember any rules on those. Just points of interest, I guess. I really don't need them to be in the terrain effects. They're kind of confusing things. I would rather just have like a note at the bottom with the pictures and say these things are just, points of interest. Points of interest. Yeah. Most of those are smaller cities and towns. Yeah. Definitely don't want to fight in the mountains. There's a big lump of mountains here in the way. That's going to prevent the southern from doing much unless I directly support it. I guess we try. I don't know. I guess we cut the battery off. Delay the decision a little longer so I can babble, or let's babble so I can delay the decision, which I think is actually the real thing. So the thought that I had about Stalingrad was all those initial front-loaded decisions were kind of based on, well, how did the Russians, well, first of all, for the Russians, what do they need to defend? But they pretty much just, let's put the strength points where they look like they'll matter. And then after you get that, for the Germans, it's like, well, here's what I'm facing. I have to make a decision. To some extent, I kind of wish there was a little bit more flexibility in terms of how the Germans could be set up. I'm sure you could just bake it in, You could play Operation, what the hell is it called? Something Overlord. It's like Bodyguard Overlord. That's what it is. You could play that, and then when you actually do the landing, play it out on this, because that game just didn't work for the combat stuff. In order to, see what your setups are. Yeah, because the German setup is, fixed, and I don't think... By the way, there are scenarios, I guess, for the East map. That was the other thing. But anyway, back to the point that I was trying to talk about before my brain escaped me again. Making the Normandy landing, why it's particularly, or making, this choice of where to land, why it doesn't bother me too much is I feel like I'm making a real decision based on kind of real situational facets, rather than looking at how my opponent set up their strength points and trying to find that little tiny weak point that they had. What's kind of weird here, though, is, honestly, the Allied invasion had to be at Normandy, even before. Like, the Germans could have found out about Normandy, shifted their forces there, and the Allies would have been stuck with, okay, do you invade Normandy, or do you just call it, for several months, maybe for the year, because the logistical planning and everything was all based, was also heavy in terms of. It couldn't really be shifted very easily. Kind of like the Schlieffen plan. You couldn't just, we'll just modify that right now. Even though it got modified on the fly, right? But you couldn't make a significant change prior to pulling the trigger on it. And I really, it's kind of funny because, the Germans could conceivably have shifted their defenses about and made Normandy a lot harder to go into, and you wouldn't see the Allies changing their landing by much. Anyway, maybe at all. So it's a little odd to say that the less flexible force in reality has the flexibility to land where they do, but where you land is kind of interesting, and assuming that you couldn't pull the Germans completely away from Pas de Calais, And if you could, you know, given that, the only way you could is like by being, you'd be playing against their preconceptions. Whereas we were historically playing towards their preconceptions, saying, yeah, you know, this is the easiest place for the landing to happen. Nothing supports that easiest place in this game, though. Those aren't particularly better. The ports, maybe? Calais is not a port. This is. And Dunkirk is not a port. So you've got one port there. Nothing there. Got a port at Le Havre, a port at Cherbourg. Getting real ports is an important part of this. The advantage of landing here is we get a little bit more push into the board. So, and you know, our initial, we get to drop 6 units on the board initially, and then there's 2 on the turn after. Here we're looking at only 5 units and 1 on the turn after, and there aren't a lot of 2s out there. 1s are much, much weaker, and I could only see doing them as sort of a way to recharge. I'd like to keep some invasion capability down here. Ooh, yum. Nice beaches. Yeah, I'd like to keep some capability for landing a fair amount of troops all at once elsewhere. So, what if we do 3 landings up here to get the most forces into Normandy as possible? And that's all we can land on one turn anyway. And then be planning for, kind of don't want to do 3 landings or 2 landings down here even, because that leaves me with only 1 left. So I may want to keep 2 follow-up landings to kind of establish more beach power up in my main area, and only plan for 1 down here. And maybe even just hold off on that for quite a bit in terms of the resources that I spend. All right, I guess we're decided on that. I haven't moved any pieces, just a lot of chattering and the same kind that goes on inside my head. But yeah, those 3-point beaches look pretty damn valuable comparatively. There were basically no 2s in any large quantity. I mean, you're really kind of asked to go in here. And it'd be nice to see what the historical looks like. I'm always much more worried about that when I'm playing the tactical games. I don't really feel like and especially with World War II, I don't feel like I know enough. But usually the operational side of things, I don't really feel like I know enough at the level of detail required to really be able to say, yeah, that makes sense. That seems to be working. Into the sequence of play, reinforcements and replacement, air point phase. We get to roll for how many air points we get. It is turn 1 through 8. So I'm going to get 4 of these. I have no fucking clue what to do with 4 of them. Basically, I can't use them to launch ground strikes on my invasion. Like, they can't support an invasion. I certainly would like to dominate here. This is probably a good idea too. But now I got a couple more left. Now I could use those to dominate some other areas and slow down the German movement. The Germans are allowed to shift their forces at will, remember. On the other hand, I gotta think if I want to do an airdrop. I'm not sure that there's any great reason for one, but it'll let me get more shit on the board quickly, is kind of the main reason for it. So let me think about that a little bit, because each airdrop takes one of these suckers, and then if I do an airdrop, maybe I want to support the attack or an attack somewhere. The airdrop will say it only allows airborne divisions to be dropped. There are two types of units, and I can hunt them out for you. There's airborne, which is obviously, and there's air landing. I don't think they can be used for air landing, which seems a little odd. I understand those are probably glider units or something, but there should be some kind of, they should be able to air land somehow. I mean, they were used in that fashion. Maybe I better go look for a radar or something. You'd think by the second version, though, they would have cleared that up if it's not correct. Gamers are usually pretty damn good about nailing things like that down. Considering what I want to do with my air points, I was wrong, by the way. You don't use air points for the airdrops, you use airdrop points. And yeah, I didn't look that thing up. Considering what I want to do, I think I want to drop here and knock out, or try to knock out this unit. I can send a couple of American or English paradrops in. That'll give me 12 strength points to 6 defense. Sounds like a 2-to-1. That sounds pretty good. Since I dominate the area, if I throw an air point in there to support that, that'll shift it, I believe, 2 columns up to 4-to-1, which looks pretty damn good. I'll be able to clear that hex without a lot of work. Now, I could actually clear 2 hexes. Does this make sense? Do I want to get bottled up only in Normandy at the 3 3-point beaches to begin with? Or, yeah, I think so. Or do I want to try to force my way elsewhere? I think I want the 3 3-point beaches. Just to funnel as much stuff in initially as I possibly can, because things are kind of hairy up there. So we look here. That means my extra air point, I think I'll drop here over on Berlin. I'll drop here in the Netherlands area. Slow down movement from there. Now, if they uncover past a Calais or something, though, I'm free to land there, you know. I can do an on-the-fly invasion somewhere else. And that's especially appealing, you know, in that general area. But also, even here, you know, if they clear it out, I could drop a landing there. Now that gets rid of both of those options. Would get rid of the Paris requirement to try to hold Paris as well as they can, however ill-defined that is. So I guess that's that. Now I get to drop my invasion placement phase. I get to actually drop my invasion spaces on the board, and I'm going to make the 3. I'm going to put these guys here because I wanted to throw them all over the place. Well, I found some errata, but it really is pretty much set up information for other scenarios. And I found one change that I think affects this one in terms of reinforcements, but there may be more. Nah, I marked quite a few down, actually. Areas where things enter, mainly on the east map. But couldn't find anything about these these glider units. I don't know what the hell they're actually called in the game, but anyway, It doesn't seem to be that they can be used for paradrops, so I think I want to use them in the landing because they're kind of the crappiest thing I have. So if I have to take a step loss, taking it on 5.86s seems like a good idea now. I might want to be landing some 6s in there, some of the 6.86s with the initial landing. Although that's probably not too big a deal. Just to give me more oomph, let me take a look at my attack chart. Now, remember, I'm not going to be able to use anything there, so my losses aren't going to be affected by this. I could take a 2-step attacker losses. What do these look like on the back? That's always a good thing to know. 3, 4, 6. So they're about half strength. I think sending one of them in is probably fine, and sending a stronger unit in as well in each hex. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, because of the coordination, I have to segment the Commonwealth and the Poles from the Free French and the US. And how much effort do I want to put on each beach? You know, it doesn't really make much difference. Except that I have no 5.86 American units, so maybe I'll just let the Brits do the landing. There's a reason I wouldn't want to do that, which is replacement points. I get an American replacement point and no Commonwealth ones. That's that's way back down there. Okay, here. I'm going to get an American replacement point before I get a Commonwealth one, but I don't think it's a big deal. I think I can land. I think I can manage to lose a U.S. unit later. The problem is the follow-up has to be stackable, I think. Jeez. There's always such a high cost to starting something new, especially when there's a lot of little fiddly stuff in terms of the rules. Like in this case, the cooperation. So when does stacking come into play? It's not when it comes to arrival at a shipping port or for rebuilt units coming back on the map. So it's headquarters attack supply, which I don't need in the first attack, and at the end of movement and exploitation. All right, well, we may have to worry about that. Invasion placement. We're going to hit the exploitation after combat, which is when the invasion is actually resolved. However, I think the follow-up comes from the shipping phase, so that'll be safe to throw a bunch of American units in at that point. That might cause me a little bit of clunky problems. And then, remember, to be attack capable, I need to throw a headquarters in for each country that's going in, which is a strong reason to have just one nation launch the attack, right? Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so I guess this is what I've decided. I'm going to drop all Brits in initially and make them take Canadians here. Make them take the initial losses. Paradrop, though, these American units, they're in supply, so I don't have to worry about attack capability. That's been taken off my permanent number of airdrops that I can allow for the game. I dropped this thing. Now, I've got a shift 1 there, technically. I put a shift 2 so that I can make the paradrop attack there. That was, now I'm at combat. Now I can do that paradrop combat first. So I'm at 2-to-1 with 2 shifts, puts me over to 4-to-1. I hope I'm not in, yeah, I'm just in clear terrain there, which, let's just make sure. I've every now and then had surprises, like Third Reich, where the defender gets a bonus directly. I roll a big bad 11. Defender takes 2 steps and has to retreat 3. Well, 2 steps kills that defending unit. I believe I could advance if I want it, but that would cause me problems in the future, so I do not want to. Not quite sure where to put my dead, because they can come back using replacement points. Might as well keep them in the counter tray. Seems like as wise a place as any. Now I have my invasions, and all of them are against clear terrain. So let's start with the Canucks first. And that's all other terrain. There's no modifiers or anything here. I get a 7. The attacker takes a hit, and the hex is cleared, so I have taken it. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn these units so that they're all facing me, because this is a solo game. Let's go to the central British attack. 6. That's a step. And this hex is clear, so I can go in. And the final one, and yeah, this isn't too exciting. 7, hex clear, we take a hit. Now if these were German attacks, they wouldn't be causing any hits, but that's okay. Alright, now we get to ship, and each of these hexes get to ship, well, first, we check our exploitation phase. Nobody's going to have exploit movement. You're not allowed to land exploit capable units on an attack, on an invasion. I'm in supply for this turn. Shipping phase, now I have to figure out what I'm going to send in. Now obviously I have to send a British headquarters. If I'm sending American troops, I need to send an American headquarters as well, and I believe I'm going to be sending a lot of Americans in. Actually, I don't have to send a British headquarters unless I'm planning on attacking with them. However, they are a proportion of my combat capability. I've got 6 counters there. I might as well send a British unit in as well. We're not going to try to be too clever here. I sent a bunch of British aligned units over on this side. The Americans, well, the headquarters, the British headquarters is here, along with the American headquarters, and the American troops filling out the other 2 hexes. All big armored units, get the most strength points in play. We'll see how stupid that is, you know. But seriously, I mean, the infantry is significantly worse at attacking, so why not? There doesn't seem to be, you know, this isn't like OCS where the fortresses and the cities and everything are particularly bad for armor. Some of the SCS games have that kind of rule in them too. So now nothing's, that was shipping, nothing's going to unflip, and we go down to the German player turn, and whew, kind of exhausted. I know I haven't done anything, but I did a lot of babbling and a lot of thinking, and you know, to no real effect. I just did my landings as would be expected. The German goal is to try to clog up the landing as much as possible, and I see a few goals there, a few sub goals, I guess. Oh, geez, some guys got displaced a little bit. I'll have to figure out where they're from, but if I can defend Cherbourg, that seems like a good idea, although I gotta be careful. I don't think I surrender if I'm inside a fortress, but I will be out of supply, which can be problematic. So it may be hard for me to hold that, but I kind of don't want to just withdraw from it. I kind of want to make sure the allies have to fight, so I may need some support there. What about possible attacks? Well, the landing hexes I'm not going to be able to hit. They're filled with units, but overstacked with units. And as a matter of fact, am I allowed to? Let me check that. I don't know if I'm allowed to be that overstacked, in which case, geez, sending 2 units in might have been a mistake. Let me make sure I'm allowed. I am up to 4 units. Headquarters trucks and game markers don't count, but they did count for shipping. Stacking is enforced only at the end of regular movement and at the moment of overruns. Otherwise, I'm allowed to temporarily overstack, which is kind of interesting, because my exploitation phase can end up overstacked, right? After combat, I can advance and be overstacked. All very neat. I'm not sure what that is meant to reflect. It's a strange decision. But anyway, these are basically unattackable. The only thing that I'd be able to attack is probably this, and we know what's there. We can see the top unit. We saw them attack, so we can kind of remember. So there's 18 strength points. Doubled for the Bocage is 36. Looking at my combat charts, I'm pretty sure I don't want to attack at worse than 1-to-1. And I may not want to attack at worse than 2-to-1, but anyway, I don't think I'm going to be able to get 36 strength points together to launch an attack there. Now, I also have to keep in mind the air power, which road hexes cost a movement point for the Germans, and I don't get a strategic movement advantage off armor and Panzer Grenadier. Panzer Grenadier are the mech units, I would guess. Yeah. So that's not going to be very good for me. All right. So basically, I'm going to want to try to clog that up and get as much defensive power in place as I can. Shifting around to try to improve my overall position. I'm tilting the units that I moved. So like I moved this infantry into Bordeaux. It was back here somewhere. That allowed me to move one of these armors, I think, up. I'm trying to relieve over here, although I'm not really sure that's a necessary space to defend. Static unit at Saint Nazaire. I'm holding in a lot of locations, but I also threw a fair amount of force right in here. There's some bigger units. Cherbourg I'm going to defend fairly heavily. If that can be painful for the Allies to take, it seems like a good idea. You know, again, these kind of games, I often make really bad decisions in them. So don't trust anything of what I'm doing. Now, for example, I have moved, my armor and some of the background units to move forward and get closer to the front. My thoughts being, if they launch the attack here now, they're going to have to support this attack. There's going to be problems. They're going to have to at least do one landing down here. It may take 2 landing zones. The ugly place to do it is over here, where there's a good beach, but I'm going to have hell to go through to get there. And there's really nothing nice down here to make the landing for. But on the other hand, there aren't a lot of German units there. I've got this Panzer here that I left behind, and this guy I do not think I moved, and I think given the armor that I'm moving, I probably want to get him down with the rest of these units. Question is on which side. Flexible response here or just head down here. I like the flexible better. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll do strategic movement. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this question came up. Where the hell was I? Who the guy at Fantasy Island was? When I was at the game store. Ricardo Montalban. Yeah. But I don't remember. Yeah. Okay. Mr. Rourke. All right. And we did come to the answer of what his name was. So No attacks, nothing of too much excitement. I think the airplanes get removed at the beginning of the Allied player turn. I'm going to pull them off now just because of issues in terms of remembering what's up. Now over here, these removed beach ports, they're allowed, I think, 6 turns. So these 3 should go, we're going to see this. I think it's turn 7, but it may be turn 6. And that's basically how much time I have to get some ports into play. Now, yep, turn 7. Okay, we'll just throw those down. And then I think we can move the turn marker. At this point, I guess the Allied question is, A, do we drop, what is it, Operation Anvil or whatever down there? There's still quite a bit of force down here. And as long as they're not going anywhere, I'm not sure I expect it to get very far. That's the problem. Like if I land in one of these areas down here, the Germans might be able to dislodge it, although I doubt it. If I land down here where I can get a lot of forces in early, I'm going to have a tough time fighting through Marseille. Of course, getting it early might be not a bad move. Up here, there's nothing additional I need to do in Normandy. I've got my beachheads running, I'm good. I've used up 3 of them though, so. But I guess the real question is, have I opened something up that, you know, I'd want to take a shot at getting in? You know, for example, back here, there's not a lot of Axis force sitting around in the Netherlands. Of course, that's all wetlands, that's hard to land in, we don't really want to go there. And then over here, yeah, there's enough still there that I don't want to try to do, you know, a run on that side. Of course, I could do something like try to sneak into St. Nazaire or something. But I may be better off withholding any follow-ups in order to just see if I can get some kind of breakout from here. So let's take that assumption in mind, at least for now. And we got no reinforcements, there are no replacements this turn for anyone except the Germans. And we roll on the air point table. See what we get. 9er, we get 7. That's a lot of air points. I'll dig them out and figure out what the hell I want to do with them. I'm going to need more for attacking, so I'm almost certainly going to be dropping dominance in this air zone because I want those 2-column shifts everywhere. I kind of failed to follow the sequence of play very well. And I shouldn't do that when I'm starting a game. I started to move some of these British armor into here and started to look up, can I overrun a fortress? But before I do that, I need to make both of these attack capable. Because I'm going to be launching attacks from both of them. I've made the decision that Cherbourg is too important. I have to take it on this second turn. Reason being, if I roll a 6, that's going to pump me out to turn 8, which is after all these ports are dead. Now, I could draw a trace supply from Cherbourg, but that would be a 1-turn delay in which I can't attack. And time is pretty important in this game from what I can tell. So I'm going to want to hit that pretty hard. I've got my maximum stacking there. Now I moved into a bocage. Which only costs 1. Huh. Okay. +2 for the zone of control that I'm looking at. So that's 3 of my movement points. I've got enough I could probably do an overrun and then come swinging back down into a combat situation afterwards, which sounds appealing if I can manage it. If I can dislodge this unit as well, that would be really cool. Figure out how many air points I'm going to need as well. I already threw one in here. I know I'm going to need that. I'm going to be attacking 1, 2, 3, maybe like 5 hexes. 2, 3, 4. Yeah. The big question here is whether or not I want to slow down movement in this region yet again. Otherwise, too many Germans might come flying through there. So now I've got interdictions on both of these regions, and I think that's probably a good idea. All right, that cleans up most of what we're going to do. Now we're going to do that overrun because, I mean, yeah. So stacking is checked at the moment of the overrun. We got all Brits here. I got 36 points of armor hitting 10 points in a fortress. The fortress doubles. He doesn't have an out of supply marker yet, so I don't think he's halved yet. Supply is checked when? Is it checked at the moment of combat, or is it? It's checked at the end of the player turn. So I think I'm actually facing quite a bit there. I was thinking they'd be halved and doubled, but they're not. I would have to wait another turn. So that's 36 to 20. That's not what I was counting on. That gets me on the 1-to-1. Now, I was going to throw a 2-point air point in there. And let's see, does the chart, there's no 3-to-2 or anything. So that's a 1-to-1 with 2 shifts. That's not what we wanted. It's still, I guess, reasonable odds. 7. Attacker loses 1, the defender loses 1 and has to take a retreat. Well, the defender does not have to take a retreat, but they do lose 1. And we'll take this as our step loss. And the attacker loses 1. Take it on the 4 poles. They're red, they're going to confuse me. And I'll have to get at that while I have hands. I'm a little afraid to do more overruns, which may be a problem here. I mean, I could have probably squeezed one out against this poor sucker, right? I came here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, no, he's as far as he could go. All right, and now I'm going to launch 3 more attacks, which is not as many as I was planning for. I had an extra plane there. I'm going to be dropping 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. And I don't have to pre-allocate these suckers, but... And we'll make another shot at Cherbourg. We're not thrilled with this. This isn't good. 8, that's 16. We have 27, 32. That gives us 2-to-1 base with 2 shifts in our favor. Puts us up to 4-to-1. That's a D2, R2. Well, obviously we're going to ignore those retreats. That attack is done. Over here we're hitting with both of these, and I have attack supply coming through the ports. 2 ports can supply 2 units, so that's not a problem. I have 8, 18, and 6 is 24. Ouch! 24. to 9 for the bocage, doubled is 18. That's a 1-to-1. Luckily I have 2 shifts on me. That's not pleasant. Now, one of the pictures seems to indicate that this qualifies as the 180 rule, which is not what I would have thought. So I'm on the 3-to-1. Not that that affects me here. That's an attack or lose 2. That's not good. As the bocage strikes here. I don't have to ship units back. If they get destroyed, I can rebuild them at headquarters. So I'm going to take a hit on 2 full units. It's all Commonwealth there. And then this, I got to calculate the odds. I really could use hands for this. I'm trying to get like 64 to 25, 2-to-1, 2 shifts in my favor. Now, there's let's check the terrain. No, not 24. 10, 25, yeah. 64 to 50, so 1-to-1, 2 shifts in my favor. Puts me over to the 3-to-1 table. One of those paratroopers is damaged now. I forgot to roll for them last turn. I'm not going to worry about it. We'll let the result stand from last turn, but I did the point of damage for them. I'm pretty sure I forgot to make the rolls when they dropped. We get a good roll. D2, R2. Okay. So here's where things get interesting. I kill some crap. Oh, gotta keep that armor alive. So here's the thing. I could stand here and take 2 more hits, or I could fall back. I'm in some nice terrain. I've got more units coming. I honestly don't know. This is one of the problems, is making this judgment. Do I want to fall back and give terrain or not? Slowing things up at the bocage seems like a really good idea, but taking 2 more hits sounds really painful. I mean, this isn't actually bocage, this is the cane forest. And I've got, you know, if I give this up, I got no reason to stay there. Now I could keep some forces here, let them channel through. They could, I've got a river line, a couple of river lines here I can defend, but there's not a lot of good terrain between me and there. I think I'm going to take the hits. I think the terrain is more important than the units at this point. For the exploitation phase, I'm definitely going to hit Cherbourg again. And yeah, I know it's pronounced con. It's not the right con though, so it's a little weird. So yeah, let's hit that again. I don't think I want to try. Let's do an exploit here, I guess. No, because that stops my movement, and I'll be in trouble there. I do want to do some exploitation movement, though, with some of these other units. Let's push one of my armored units there. And I think that's really all I can afford. Mainly I want to stay in supply. Let's throw another one there. Just make sure that I got a fair strength everywhere. All right, but this I'm going to be moving back in with my movement points. And let's see, I'm at 27, 32 to 6. Now I'm at 5 to 1. I got nothing else to use my air points for, so I'll shoot that up to 7 to 1. Which should be pretty good. The defender takes a hit, doesn't have to retreat. That kills the last of these. I'm allowed to advance after combat. This is a big deal. I'll move this in. I look for the Cherbourg port. It's here. I roll a die. See how far in it. It's going to be 6 turns. Yeah. Let's get the worst of possible luck. So that throws us out to turn 8. Should be out here just after our beach ports are gone. Now we have a bunch of emergency attack markers, so we will be allowed to make a couple of attacks on that 7th turn after all the beach ports die, and we'll be able to trace regular supply out of Cherbourg. But right now, this is not an optimal situation. Now we might get lucky. We might be able to get Le Havre or something, but I'm not counting on it. You know, the Germans are piling in pretty quickly. And at this point, we check supply, and we are all in supply because I moved into these spaces. So, right? I can supply out of here or here. I can supply out of here, so I don't actually need that space, which is important. And now we get our shipping, which this is the 2nd turn. That's not it. Oh, there it was, the port table. Not over here, so we gotta look at the port table here. It's in the rules, but it's not on the back page. This is follow on turn after, so I get 2 in each hex. And these guys would have had to have moved. 2 in each hex, and we'll figure out what we actually want to put there. But right now we don't need more than 2 headquarters. So I'm going to probably be concentrating on American troops as much as possible. Do we have a problem here because of this zone? Did I screw something up? You know, I needed to hold that hex, or else I couldn't have launched the attacks here. Push these guys back here. They couldn't spread out as much as they did in order that I can keep my supply line there. Yeah, lots of fudging here. Looks to me like I want to bring Americans in for the most part, but I think I'll bring 2 Brits in over there and keep them on that side of things. So we screwed up with the paratroopers pointing out now. I unflipped my headquarters, and now we're moving over to the German side of things. And damn, my heat here does not work. I'm in this, I got electric heat, but I got the wood stove. However, I'm not allowed to use the wood stove the last couple of days because the air quality is too lousy, which makes perfect sense, but I can't keep the main part of the house hot, even with everything running. The baseboards just suck. Of course, I fucked up already. On the first turn of the game, I forgot to give the Germans their exploitation move, which means that they're not as well positioned in the bocage as they should be, which I don't feel like rewinding, but that's kind of a big deal. I'm just going to keep playing it out. I assume I'm going to make some pretty big blunders with the Americans, and I would have been allowed to. It just, I don't know. I mean, this isn't the rules. I didn't violate the rules. I just played very stupidly. This turn, I am going to take their exploitation movement. They moved up, considering any possibility of combat, but I can't see fighting the Allies in the bocage. So their breakout's going to be easier than probably it should be, but it's hard to tell. The one thing I have to be careful of is not to allow a unit like this to get surrounded on both sides. It doesn't immediately surrender, but it's out of supply and then has to kind of fall back. So the 180 rule isn't as devastating as it sounds like it is, but it can definitely degrade a position. And there are places where there's definitely a possibility of it happening. I have to be careful though with the Allied supplies too in that case. All right, let's, oh, and I forgot to bring in Allied reinforcements. I brought in a tank and replaced one of the infantry that landed with that armor unit. And then the Germans, I had a hard time finding them because the two maps use the same letters for reinforcement areas. And E was pretty easy to find. Something came in there. But B, I'm here looking, and this is the only B I see. I'm like, haha. Wow, that can't be right. Eventually I found it's hidden under a unit. And I don't know if it's over here. Anyway, you know, there's all these A's, and then, whoop, there's a B. Hidden under a unit, no less. Because I got an extra infantry down here, and I've got this guy kind of floating around. See, I'm worried about Bordeaux falling. I really, if I get too many units out of that area, yeah, it's only one unit holding it anyway. So I kind of want to leave this guy in this flexible position, but I feel like I need my armor, so I'm throwing that forward. We may end up seeing the Allies doing something about this. Anyway, this time I'm going to get some exploitation movement and actually be able to move some of those armored units and strengthen the defenses a little bit. Forgot I get a replacement point this turn, which I spent to upgrade one of the armor there. I got a pretty tough pile of German units here. It's not going to be trivial to blast through them, I don't think. But, you know, being able to get a bunch of units attacking one, this isn't like Stalingrad. There's no must attack type rules or anything like that in SCS. So I can gather forces and hit where I want to, how I want to, when I want to. The only thing I don't know is my odds ratios. That always feels a little weird to me because this feels so much like an old school game in so many ways. The SCS series does, where, yeah, you're adjacent to something, you have to attack it, but I like the freedom of not having to do that kind of thinking. That's always really kind of annoyed me, and when you have large stacks of units, when, you know, and I'm not sure what it really represents. I mean, it's clearly a design for effect type part of those older games. Anyway, I guess we're done with turn 2, and we push on to turn 3. Let's see if we can remember to drop the reinforcements in time. Turn 4 is when stuff starts showing up on the eastern map, and I have to figure out when, you know, how to defend that. And let's get these off the map. I guess that's about it. At least we got a crappy roll for the Cherbourg port repair, which means the Allies are going to have to either waste an invasion on Normandy or break out much quicker than they should be able to, although my error might make that possible. Or maybe use some emergency attacks. You can't afford to just say, yeah, I'm not going to attack this turn with the Allies. They're on a tight time schedule. They really are. All right, let's send this up.